From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, March the 19th, 2018. An Israeli man who was critically injured in a terror attack in Jerusalem yesterday died of his wounds last night. 32-year-old father of four Adiel Coleman was stabbed in Jerusalem's Old City by a Palestinian terrorist yesterday afternoon. Eyewitnesses said Coleman tried to fight off the terrorist until help arrived. He was given treatment at the scene and taken to the hospital, where he later succumbed to his wounds. Hundreds gathered today in the West Bank Jewish settlement of Kochav HaShachar to lay Coleman to rest. The terrorist was identified as 26-year-old Palestinian Abd al-Rahman Bani Fadel from the West Bank, who had been given a permit to enter Israel in order to find work. Fadel was shot and killed by Israeli security forces who arrived at the scene. Yesterday, funerals were held for the two IDF soldiers killed in a car ramming attack in the West Bank on Friday. 21-year-old Captain Ziv Daos and 20-year-old Sergeant Netanel Kahalani were standing outside a military observation post along a highway near the Jewish settlement of Mevodotan when a Palestinian driver deliberately drove his car into them, as well as into two other soldiers who were seriously injured and remain hospitalized. And Saturday night, the IDF destroyed two Hamas terror tunnels. They had been identified by the IDF several weeks ago. One of the tunnels ran from southern Gaza into the Eshkol Regional Council inside Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the IDF, saying Israel will continue to act resolutely against any attempt to harm Israeli citizens, adding that the time has come for the international community to recognize that the aid money for Gaza gets buried underground, referring there to the construction of such terror tunnels. An employee at the French consulate in Jerusalem was indicted today for helping to smuggle weapons to Palestinians. 24-year-old Roman Frank was suspected of using a diplomatic vehicle to illegally transport dozens of guns out of Gaza and into the West Bank. A total of 9 suspects were arrested by Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, who had investigated the case. According to them, Frank received the weapons from a Palestinian who worked at the French Cultural Center in Gaza and then transferred the weapons to a cell in the West Bank who sold them to arms dealers. Former IDF soldier Elor Azaria, who is serving time in jail for shooting and killing a Palestinian terrorist, will see an early release. Azaria, if you recall, was convicted of manslaughter last year for killing Abdel Fattah al-Sharif, who lay incapacitated on the ground after he had attacked 2 other IDF soldiers in Hebron in 2016. Azaria was sentenced to 14 months in jail. Today, the Army's Prison Parole Board ordered Azaria be released this May after completing 2/3 of his sentence. World Jewish Congress President Ronald Lauder and outgoing Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations Executive Vice Chairman Malcolm Homeline were honored today in Jerusalem. The walls on each side of the Ark in Jerusalem's Great Synagogue were dedicated with the names of the 2 Jewish leaders and their respective wives. The Ronald and Joe Carroll Lauder Prayer for the State of Israel wall and the Malcolm and Freda Homeline Prayer for the Security and Emergency Services wall. Meanwhile, Lauder expressed his concerns for Israel in an op-ed published yesterday in the New York Times, citing what he said were 2 grave threats that could endanger the Jewish state's existence. The, quote, possible demise of the 2-state solution, and the second, a 2-pronged threat, which Lauder said was Israel's capitulation to religious extremists and the growing disaffection of the Jewish diaspora. Lauder wrote, "We must change course. We must push for a 2-state solution and find common ground among ourselves so that we can ensure the success of our beloved nation." Outgoing Jewish Agency Chairman Natan Sharansky will receive the 2018 Israel Prize for his lifetime achievement and exceptional contribution to the State of Israel in the field of Aliyah and ingathering of the exiles. Education Minister Naftali Bennett announced the honor yesterday, saying that Sharansky symbolizes the fulfillment of the Zionist dream, from the darkness of a Soviet prison to the light of freedom as the leader of the Jewish Agency. Sharansky called the award a great honor and a great responsibility. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, March the 19th. At 7 o'clock, it's The Wisdom of Dr. Ruth. At 7:30, award-winning Israeli author David Grossman accepts the Maurice N. Eisendrath Bearer of Light Award from the Union for Reform Judaism. At 8, social activist Aaron Pulver and legal activist Simcha Rothman talk about their battle against anti-Israel initiatives and corruption within Israel's judicial system. That's from the West Side Institutional Synagogue. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Ambassador Arthur Cole on L'chaim. At 10, remarks from former UK Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs and Columbia professor Simon Schama, who speak with David Gregory about Jewish identity at the 92nd Street Y. And coming up right after this newscast tonight at 6:30, Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz goes one-on-one. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, March the 19th, 2018. I'm Teisha Bader.